Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Taco Tuesday.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos.
It's raining tacos out in the street. Tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, 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 yum. It's like a treat.
Who doesn't love tacos, right? Who doesn't love that theme song? I mean, it's raining tacos. How can you not like the fact that it is raining tacos? Okay, well, I guess it depends on how heavily it's raining tacos. And if it's more like hail, that's probably a bad thing. But in any case, I love tacos. So, well, I've never heard anyone complain about the theme song for Taco Tuesday. So I like it. Mike likes it. So anyway, that's what we're going to go with. Anyway, today's Tuesday. It's not quite hump day. It's not the beginning of the week. We're one day closer to the weekend, which I'm sure we are all looking forward to. But I'm here with you. So I want to encourage you, if you're watching this program, if you're watching us live, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, please do me a favor. Go ahead and chime in. Give us a holler. Say what's up. Would love to hear from you. Would love to talk with you. Find out what you think about what we're talking about today, because ultimately that's what it's really about. I mean, this is not a show that I do for me. This is a show that we do for you. And we want to know that y'all are entertained. And so it's really helpful if you just let us know what's up. Let us know what you guys think. I appreciate, by the way, the fact that you folks are following the word and you guys are liking and sharing the program, letting folks know what's up. We're seeing our following grow on Spotify as well as on Rumble in particular. Apple Podcasts, though, got to tell you, still the number one way in which people are partaking of the show. Folks, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcast, let me tell you something. You're missing some fun because this is actually a video podcast. So it's a video podcast and we record the audio and we put the audio out as a podcast. If you want to watch it on your time, here's the best thing to do. Go to Spotify. Because Spotify, you can either listen to it as you would any other podcast on audio, but you can also watch it if you want to be able to watch it and see the video portion of it as well. In any case, in the end, doesn't matter to me how you partake. It only matters to me that you partake and that you encourage your friends to do the same. All right, Mike is doing his Civil Air Patrol today, so he is not going to be joining us. So it's going to be me and thee. And we're going to have a good time as we always do. But before we do, you know what we got to do, and that is give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you today. Just go to hitmanindustries.net. We've got the California Republican Assembly working behind enemy lines to help elect conservatives to all levels of government, school board, all the way up to President of the United States. Check them out at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, join CRA. And then you've got the best in concealed carry and tactical holsters. That's right, Hog Holsters. You'll find them at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com. Make sure that you use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, just like it is right there. One word, you're going to get a discount on us on your Hog Holster. And then finally, if you're looking for outdoor gear, whether it's cold weather, hot weather, wet weather, whatever it may be, trust me, they have all things tactical except the gun at uscombatgear.com. They've got a huge selection. They've got great prices, fast shipping. Once again, veteran-owned and operated, uscombatgear.com. Check them out today. All right. Today's story, and I know you're probably wondering, this is probably the first time in I actually didn't have time to go back and look and see how long it's been since we did not have a Joe Biden or Donald Trump related lead story. It's been a while, and that's not to say that there are not things to talk about. But I kind of figured you guys might want a break. You might want to hear a little bit about some other things, and not that we don't have any stories on the upcoming election, but there are other things going on in the world, and we figured y'all might be interested in hearing a little bit about some of those things. And that is going to take us into our first story today, and this has to do with medically necessary gender-affirming care. Now, one of the things that we are led to believe is that gender-affirming care, and when I say gender-affirming care, I mean the use of medications like puberty blockers, or what really have been used as, what were originally used as, or used to only be used for sex offenders in order to basically chemically castrate them. Anyway, so that's what they were used for. Use of those drugs in order to prevent children from experiencing puberty, or what they call gender reaffirming surgery, which is actually sex trait modification surgery, which usually includes a mastectomy, which is the removal of the breasts, as well as a removal of the lower genitals for males, and the creation of a fake vagina. Anyway, all that having been said, we've been told that, these sorts of things are medically necessary. And the reason that they had been giving for saying they are medically necessary is because those who deal with gender dysphoria tend to be more likely to commit suicide. Not just more likely to commit suicide, more likely to suffer from suicidal ideation, meaning they tend to be more suicidal. Now, we've been told that is the case, and they do it in a way in which to say, well, if you don't let them do this, well, then they are more likely to commit suicide. Now, we'll ignore the fact that there is absolutely no data that supports this. There is no greater suicide rate the suicide rate amongst this community does not go down after they've had this care. It does not decrease. So we know that this is not the case, and we've seen that many countries, or several countries in particular in Europe, are starting to kind of change their perspective on this. And when I say that, they're mainly dealing with or changing their perspective when it comes to children, because a lot of these things, once again, are being deemed medically necessary for children, right? Minors. The ones who can't get a tattoo without their parents' permission, or in the state of California, can't go to a tanning salon with their parents' permission. But they can go and they can have their genitals removed or be given medication that could cause permanent sterility without their parents' knowledge and without their consent. I guess if they don't have their knowledge, then they definitely don't have their consent. Well, as it turns out, the whole thing in terms of the quote-unquote medically necessary part turns out to be an insurance scam, or insurance motivated. And this is a piece over at the Washington Free Beacon. It says, top transgender health group said hormones surgeries were quote, medically necessary so that insurance would cover them, documents show. The World Professional Association for Transgender Health said the language was a tool attorneys could use in defending access to care. The World Professional Association for Transgender Health, WPATH, asserted that cross-sex hormones and surgeries were, quote, medically necessary so that insurance companies would pay for those procedures, allowing concerns about the treatment's affordability to dictate claims about their effectiveness. Newly unsealed court documents show. WPATH's standards of care, which guide clinical practice in the United States, were updated in 2022 to include language about the medical necessity of hormones and surgeries because as WPATH official wrote in an email, the group was frustrated with America's, quote, obtuse and unhealthy system of healthcare coverage. Most private insurance plans and state Medicaid policies exclude procedures deemed elective or cosmetic. That is why, in 2016, WPATH issued a statement describing gender treatments as, quote, medically necessary, end quote, and urging U.S. insurers to cover them. Quote, we need a tool for our attorneys to use in defending access to care, end quote, a WPATH official recalled in a January 2022 email. One of the many communications unsealed last month during the course of litigation. Quote, the original medical necessity statement was specific to the U.S. because this was where we were experiencing the problem, end quote. But that statement lacked the authority of WPATH's formal standards of care, which set guidelines for doctors and are frequently cited in court battles, including those over insurance coverage for transgender treatments. So the official continued, it was important to include language from the 2016 statement in the actual standards of care. I have long wanted this, and many of our other policy statements to become more of the standards of care because that gives them greater force. The official wrote to colleagues whose names were redacted in the court documents. Everyone was on the same page when the 8th version of the standards of care, known as SOC 8, came out in September 2022. The standards include, for the first time, a recommendation that health systems provide medically necessary gender-affirming health care. Now, folks, they want you to believe, or they want to tell you, or in some cases, maybe some of the people who advocate for gender-affirming care believe that, well, this is just therapy. Well, it's going to help them understand, are they really dealing with gender dysphoria? Are they really transgender? Or are they dealing with something else? In this care, they're going to get all of these, they're going to get counseling, and they're going to get a chance to talk about it. And it's going to go through all of these standards before they're able to go through this stuff. And none of that actually happened. Gender affirming care, as outlined by the folks who do it, it's the cross-sex hormones, it's the chemical castration, it's the removal of sexual traits, right? Breasts, penis, testes, right? The creation of a fake a vagina. That is gender affirming care. That's what they want you to be able to do to children as young as 12 years old. And now we're finding out that it really wasn't medically necessary. We already knew. The only argument for it being medically necessary had to do with suicides. Well, now that we know that it doesn't affect the rate of suicide or suicidal ideation, the truth has come out. And by the way, the people who sit on this committee, the people who do this, these are people who work in the industry. These are people who are making millions of dollars doing this to people. Now, if you're a grown adult, if you're an adult, and you decide you want to go through this process, and you decide you want to get the breast implants, and you decide, or you want to do the mastectomy, you decide you want to castrate yourself, and you've been fully informed, you've gone through all of the information, you know and you understand what you're doing to yourself, or what you're allowing to be done to you, you're an adult. But, I'm going to say this again, but, if you're not an adult, if you're a child, and we're now seeing that in our schools, They're literally pushing this agenda in our schools. Should a child who's gone through, who has experienced this level of psychological manipulation in many of these cases, should they be subjected? Should they be allowed to make a decision that is going to affect them for the rest of their lives? That could make them sterile. That could cause them to have to deal with osteoporosis. That's the drugs that we're talking about, right? Permanently removing body parts, right? Is this the sort of stuff that we want a child who may or may not decide, maybe I'm just, if I'm a male, maybe I'm just effeminate, or maybe I'm just gay. But at least if they haven't gone through that process of having body parts removed, of having chemicals that have permanently altered their bodies, their reproductive system. Anyway, this is all about money. It's all about money. And anyway, this article is over at the Free Beacon. Encourage you to go over there. Encourage you to read it. It's disgusting. It is honestly and truly disgusting. It is highly frustrating. I am putting the link to it right now in the comments section. So if y'all want to check it out, go ahead and check it out. Those of you who are watching on Ops Lens, I don't have the ability. If you go to us on Facebook or YouTube or Rumble, or you'll be able to get a copy of it there. You'll be able to see it there. It's in the comment section. But once again, all of that having been said, this is beyond frustrating to see. It is. I don't know any other way to put it other than it is. Countless kids are being subjected to this. And when I say countless, I'm not talking millions. But there are thousands of children who are going through this. And we've got to inject some sort of reason to this. When I say reason, I mean some sort of common sense. And when I say common sense says you don't allow a child to engage in activities that will significantly alter them and harm them going into the future. You don't allow that to happen, because they don't have the capacity, in many cases, the maturity to understand long-term consequences. They just don't. And that's a reality. And, when you see people talking about them, quote unquote, violating, and they people getting mad because they say that they're violating transgender rights, this is what they're talking about. It's this sort of stuff that, when I say this, I mean, what they're talking about is people are trying to keep these things from happening to minors and to children in particular. To adults, yeah, you don't want it to happen to adults, but adults are going to do what adults want to do, right? Consenting adults with all of the information, as long as you haven't been lied to, you're going to do what you have the right to do what you want to do. But not children. I'm sorry. Children have to be protected from themselves. That's our job as adults. And now we're finding out what they are deeming medically necessary wasn't because it is actually medically necessary. It's for the insurance money. All right, that brings us now to our next story, having to do with jobs. Now, the Democrats would have you believe that, well, there's not that many people here who've come to the country. There's not that many people who've come into the country. It's not that big a deal. They're taking jobs that Americans won't do, yada, 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 right? And at the same time, they're claiming credit for all of these new jobs and all of these newly created jobs. Well, it doesn't take much homework for you to figure out that a lot of their argument is a bunch of hooey. That is a bunch of lies, and that there's some insidious things that are behind some of the things that they are talking about. And it has to do with a story right now that is over at Breitbart. And it says here, now this is, by the way, it's according to Pew Research, right? Pew Research is they're not left-wing, they're not right-wing. They tend to lean a little left, but their data is generally pretty solid, right? And they're basically saying more than 3 million migrants, more than 30 million migrants taking U.S. jobs, far outpacing the growth of native-born Americans. Now let's go ahead and let's read the piece here a little bit. It says working and middle-class Americans are competing for jobs against more than 300 million migrants, including illegal immigrants, visa workers, and illegal aliens, the Pew Research Center revealed. The latest from the Pew Research Center shows that as of 2022, there are more than 30 million illegal immigrants legal and illegal aliens were in the United States and holding American jobs, a 20% increase over the last 15 years. More specifically, the number of legal immigrants alone who were holding American jobs as of 2022 increased by almost 30% since 2007. Meanwhile, during the same 15-year period, the number of native-born Americans who have been added to the United States workforce has increased by less than 10%. The data shows that the federal government has used mass immigration as a labor policy to fill U.S. workforce with millions of newly arrived migrants that working and middle-class Americans are forced to compete with in the labor market. That trend has been mostly predominant on President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris's watch. Last month, research from the Center for Immigration Studies found that from May 2019 to May 2024, 75% of all U.S. job growth has gone to newly arrived migrants, both legal immigrants and illegal aliens. During that same period, fewer than 1 million native-born Americans have been added to the U.S. workforce, and labor participation for working-class American men continues to decline from 95.7% in 1960 to 81.6% this year. The most recent Bureau of Labor Statistics data from June shows that while almost 950,000 native-born Americans have fallen out of the U.S. workforce over the last year, nearly 1.2 million American jobs have gone to migrants. Now, I'm all for competition, right? And I have no problem with those who have entered the country legally. I have no problem with them being here, competing for jobs. I got no problem with any of that. But what they don't differentiate here is they don't differentiate what the percentage of people who are the legal immigrants and who are the illegal immigrants. And they do that for a reason. Because there are a lot of people here. And a lot of people think they're coming in, oh, well, they're taking jobs we're not going to. No, they're taking jobs in construction. They're taking jobs in transportation. They're taking jobs in the service industry. And in many cases, they are, I mean, we talked about we talk about wages being stagnated for such a long time. One of the problems that we've seen is, well, first of all, under Donald Trump, wages went up significantly. In fact, both individual and household wages went up for the first time in over 40 years under Donald Trump's presidency. So let's lay that out. Now, under the Biden administration, yes, the wages have gone up, but they haven't kept pace with inflation. Inflation has gone up way more than wages have gone up. We've also found that most of the jobs that they've quote unquote created, something like 2/3 of the jobs they've created are government jobs. Well, let me clarify. If you look at the jobs that he claims to have created, 2/3 of those were just people coming back to work from the pandemic. Then of the ones that are left, 75% of those went to immigrants. 75% of those jobs did not go to Americans. In fact, the labor participation rate, that's the percentage of people who are eligible to work in the United States, has gone down significantly. Meaning, you got a lot of working age people who've decided they're just going to stay home. They're not going to bother to work. or they're going to do something else, or they're going to live off the government. They're going to live off those COVID checks. And a lot of people did that. They're going to live off unemployment. A lot of people have decided that they're going to do that. And in places in particular where they've created programs like guaranteed income, right? People figure, why work if I don't have to work, right? If I can spend my time doing whatever it is that I want to do and I don't have to work, why should I bother to go and work? Nope, no reason for me to do that. Anyway, so this is one of the reasons why, and I think people get this to a degree. That's the reason why. Oh, by the way, just so you know, a huge percentage of the jobs that these folks are taking, they tend to be, they fall in two areas. Some of them are high-tech jobs. And in many cases, the problem is that the places where these jobs are located, the workforce training is just not there. And so you have some people who are being brought in on visas because they have the ability to do those jobs and fill those jobs. That's a small percentage, but it's significant because those tend to be higher wage jobs. Now, a huge percentage of them, though, are low skilled jobs. Jobs that normally younger people would do, jobs that low income people, usually people who are less skilled, Latinos and African Americans are more likely to be doing a lot of these jobs. In other words, a lot of the people who are coming in are basically to replace the low income, low skilled American workforce. And what they're doing is that they're undercutting the market, which is interesting because at the same time, you've got Democrats pushing for increases in the minimum wage. I mean, you're literally paying, now you're going to start to pay them to do more. I mean, here's the thing. You wouldn't need to increase the minimum wage if you'd stop messing with the supply-demand ratio within the job market. If you would just allow people who are here legally to work and people who aren't here legally aren't not being allowed to work, or how about this? How about not let them in the country if they're not here legally? Then we would probably start to see wages go up. Naturally, without a minimum wage increase. Not saying, just saying. Anyway, moving right along. Next in the line of stories, we've got this one here. The director of the Secret Service, Ms. Cheetle, Kimberly Cheetle, she has resigned, and I think that this was something that was coming. I don't know if you I didn't watch the actual hearings, but I did watch some of the previews or highlights or lowlights, whatever you want, however you would wish to refer to them. It did not go real good for her. It didn't go good for her at all. When you have Republicans and Democrats alike saying you need to resign, then you pretty much know you need to resign. But this being reported out of CNN, it says here, U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheetle has tendered her resignation amid scrutiny of security lapses related to the recent assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump, sources tell CNN. The move comes as lawmakers and an internal government watchdog move forward with investigations into the agency's handling of Trump's protection and how a gunman came close to killing the 2024 Republican presidential candidate at a rally in Pennsylvania this month. Cheetle said in her resignation letter, she made the difficult decision to leave the agency with a heavy heart, and she doesn't want her departure to distract agents from their mission. Quote, in light of recent events, it is with heavy heart that I have made the difficult decision to step down as your director, Cheetle wrote. She acknowledged that on January 13, the day of the shooting, the agency, quote, fell short of its mission to protect our nation's leaders. Secret Service Deputy Director Ron Lowe has been tapped to lead the agency, the Department of Homeland Security announced. In a statement, President Biden said he and the First Lady Jill are grateful for Cheetle's decades of public service. As a leader, it takes honor, courage, and incredible integrity to take full responsibility for an organization tasked with one of the most challenging jobs of public service, Biden said of Cheetle. There have been bipartisan calls calls in Congress for Cheadle's resignation and a push by Republican lawmakers to impeach her. Lawmakers are particularly incensed after her appearance in front of the House Oversight Committee on Monday, where she was unwilling to answer any of the committee's questions. Now, I'll say this. One, I'm glad she's gone, and quite frankly, she should have resigned earlier. It didn't take a couple of weeks. Ultimately, I mean, the last time this happened was when Reagan got shot, and even though in that case it took a little longer, eventually the head of the Secret Service resigned. She needed to resign. I'm sorry, but she needed to resign. Eventually, she was going to have to resign, and we're in the internet age now, so there's a lot more public. It's a lot more that the public can do to create pressure to encourage someone or to make it so that someone really needs to resign. But let's just be real. The failings in this case were so great. The level of incompetence that would have to exist for this to happen is astounding. How people could be involved in the protection of our leaders, of the most important people in our nation, could be this incompetent, or did somebody know something? Was somebody in on it? I'm not saying there were. I am just not. I'm just saying that if there is this level of incompetence in the job that's supposed to represent and have the best of the best, if this is how bad it is, Lord help us. All I can say is, Lord help us. It's time that we get some standards back, because the level of incompetence necessary to do this, necessary to get us here, is astounding. Anyway, that brings us to our final story. Speaking of incompetence, I'm sorry. Harris pledges to be gun grabber in chief. So Harris came out and she gave her first kind of big speech and presentation the other day, promoting her candidacy. And in her first speech, the one thing she made sure to hit on, it wasn't just about her being a prosecutor, but she wanted to point out that gun control was going to be her thing. And this is our folks over at The Reload actually put this piece together. Steve Gutowski himself wrote it. It says, Kamala Harris touts gun control in first election speech. In her first campaign address since President Joe Biden dropped out of the 2024 race, Vice President Kamala Harris emphasized her support for new gun restrictions. On Monday, Harris rallied with Democratic campaign staff in Wilmington, Delaware. She laid out her vision for her own potential presidency, which included a number of new gun control laws. She described herself as and the campaign staffers as we who believe in the freedom to live safe from gun violence. Then she made specific policy promises. That's why we will work to pass universal background checks, red flag laws, and assault weapons ban, Harris said. So in other words, she is for unnecessary she's for creating a gun registry, a national gun registry, because that's what background checks are for. If they were not done for that, it would just be, can this person own a gun or not? And they wouldn't be keeping your information as to who you are and what gun you bought. And that's what she wants. That's what we have here in California. That's a gun registry. And the only reason you have a gun registry is so that you can eventually one day go and confiscate those guns. She definitely supports gun confiscation, because that's what red flag laws are. They decide where basically you're ruled to be a danger to yourself or others without having your day in court. They send someone to collect your guns and tell you, here's your court date. And then you get to go in and prove without any real standard that you are not a danger to yourself or others. So she believes in gun confiscation. And she believes we know she believes in gun confiscation because she also believes in a quote unquote assault weapons ban. She wants to ban the most commonly owned firearm in the world, and that is a semi-automatic centerfire rifle with detachable magazines. That's what she wants to ban. Even though most crimes involving firearms don't involve those firearms, she still wishes to ban them. Anyway, that's who Kamala Harris is. And for those of you who don't know her, let me just tell you, having had to experience her as our Attorney General, let's just say this. The truth doesn't matter to her. The law doesn't matter. The technology doesn't matter. She's going to do what she's going to do as long as it makes her look good. And that's really what it comes down to. Sadly, with most statewide politicians in the state of California, all they really care about is what makes them look good. They don't want to be good. They don't want to do good. They just want to look good. Anyway, and Kamala is no different. All right, folks, that brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today on discount. That's right, on discount us. So we talked a little bit earlier about Ms. Cheadle and her deciding to resign. This comes to you from the Babylon Bee. Fake news you can count on. Secret Service Director resigns in disgrace for failing to assassinate Trump. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that they tried to assassinate him, but they're either someone there tried or they are really, really, really incompetent. But hey, you know how it is. They decided, let's just put it this way. Donald Trump decided to make it real clear. He's not concerned about them because, well, he's actually turned this whole thing around and made it work to his advantage. This here is a little meme here that I found very interesting. It's got Donald Trump, a silhouette of him, I guess. I don't know if that's what you call it, with the white, with the red, with the flag sunglasses, and he's flipping the bird ×2 and saying, "You missed." And that probably was one of the biggest reasons why Joe finally decided, since the assassination attempt didn't work, they probably decided it was time to drop out of the race, because he knew he wasn't going to beat Donald Trump. But then again, I really don't think it was a decision that he made. For, as the Babylon Bee tells us, Jill Biden drops out of presidential race. Because we all know Jill is the one who's actually running the country. Right? Well, and a lot of this is going to have to do with, well, we know that the one issue where Democrats seem to have, or at least believe they have, a significant advantage in this upcoming election is when it comes to the issue of abortion. And well, this meme shows you, or points out, Biden was almost full term, so Democrats had to abort him. Wow. Well, they do believe in abortion up until the day of birth, which, once again, they will tell you they do not believe in that. They will say nobody said that we believe in that, but they won't tell you when. When is abortion not okay? They won't tell you that. So as far as we know, they support the idea of abortion up until, if not past, birth. All right, folks, that brings us to the end of our program today. But before we go, we're going to do what we always do, and that is introduce you one more time to our sponsors. We've got Hitman Industries, rifle and pistol length barrels available for you today at hitmanindustries.net. We got the California Republican Assembly. If you want to be a part of California's future today, join CRA at cragop.org. Then we've got Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Best in concealed carry and tactical holsters. And finally, if you're looking for outdoor gear of any kind, if you're looking for tactical gear of any kind except the gun, go to uscombatgear.com. All right, and that brings us to the end of our program for today. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We will be back tomorrow on Hump Day. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and if you get a chance, send a few downrange for us. Y'all take care.